The Chapel Corps College was at Fort
Yes.
Jackson for what, 7-10 years? give
Way
or
too
take?
long.
And under your leadership,
Way
you
too
decide
long.
we're going
Yes.
back home where all the other schools are.
Yes.
What drove that to say, you know what, we're because I think the objective was we're going to go there as a joint assignment to work with the Army, Navy, Chaplain Corps. I don't know whatever jointness we did, because when I went, we had our wing, they had their wing. So what was the decision to say, you know what, let's go back home?
The decision to go back home was made the day the original decision was announced, because it was nonsense. I mean, it made. I remember the day. I remember the day that I was at the resource board.
Okay.
Chaplain Howard Stendahl was the commandant of the Chaplain Corps College, and I remember the day it was announced. I'm not going to speak for Chaplain Stendahl, so don't get me
Correct.
wrong here. But the general sense was that, you know, this is a bad idea. And when the Base Realignment and Closure Commission, when they were evaluating it, they, as I understand it, they didn't really talk to anybody that understood the role of chaplaincy and the cultures, the respective cultures of each of the services. And so they just assumed, well, this is sort of like going to seminary. And it seems to me that we'd save a lot of money. And so they really believed, apparently, they really believed that the move could be made for only $1 million as an upfront cost, and we were going to save $500,000 a year. Well, what wound up happening is it was about a $15 million bill to build the buildings and all the move and all of that, about a $15 million bill. And we lost $500,000 a year relative to what we would have had over there. And so, you know, yeah, on paper, you shared a facility, but there was no jointness. And you know, it was crazy because they uprooted from the Navy's War College and their Command and Staff College and all the other colleges in the Navy from Newport, Rhode Island. They uprooted all of that and plopped them down in the middle of Army land. And they did the same thing for the Air Force, and they plopped us down in the middle of Army land. For what reason? The Chaplain Corps didn't need help feeling like we were separated from the real Air Force. We didn't need any help with that. And so it was a really bad decision. And from the first day, now I was a major at the time, and I wasn't. Everybody knew this was a bad idea. All right. And so when I had the privilege of being the chief of chaplains, one of the things that I wanted to do, if God allowed, was to move us back to where we could be at the heart of Air University, at the heart of airman education. You know, we needed to be there because that's who we are and that's what we do. And again, you talk about the providence of God. What are the odds that all those years later, when we needed to move, and you know, we did the hard work of convincing people who were seemingly unconvincible, because it was what we're saying is that Congress had made a bad decision, but God allowed all that to happen. What are the odds that at the very moment in time that we needed to move back, that the space we used to occupy was all of a sudden vacant again? What are the odds of that? Because if we had gone and said we need to spend $15 more million to build a new building, then it would never have gone. But the way the we and the staff, and it was the hand of God. I am firmly convinced that He just allowed us to put stuff back in U-Hauls, and we brought everything back to Maxwell Air Force Base, with the exception of Nate Crocker. I deeply regret that Nate Crocker didn't go back home, but I strongly, I love me some Nate Crocker,
Yes,
as
sir.
everybody does.
Yes,
Hi,
sir.
Nate. I love me some Nate Crocker, but of course Nate, the consummate professional, he figured it all out, and there was no loss of capability.
None.
And Nate is the man.
He is.
Yeah.
It seems like
Yeah.
he's upped his ante. With
Yeah.
21 years of service,
Yeah.
he's still, as my nephew would say, getting gooder and gooder.
Getting gooder. Let me ask you this:
Yes, sir.
as a guy who's been retired for 5 years, are people clamoring to move the Chapman Core College back to Fort Jackson?
No, sir.
I don't hear it.
No,
if
sir.
they are,
We
okay.
enjoy being back
I
home,
just-
looking over to see the expansion of the
Yeah.
JAG that's happening. Their
Oh, yeah.
centers happening. It's
They
like,
get all the
We
money.
belong here. You know, this
Yeah.
is home.
This is home.
Exactly.
And like I said, we didn't need help
Exactly.
feeling like we were separated.